one of the most important things that I've realized in the context of ADHD is the sensory processing piece of it.
Phil Phails for you.
And I really got lucky with that because my friends told me to send my kid to occupational therapy, where I was like, what is this magical world? And I wish every kid gets to go into one of those rooms and experience it. And so I learned about sensory processing because I had a really good occupational therapist who had extra training in it. And that helped my kids sleep through the night because I didn't realize that that was part of sensory processing and needs could be sleep related. I just didn't know that much about it. And so that has been, I think, one of the biggest things that I've really dug into research when I've had time and bandwidth to do it. And I work with an occupational therapist here in Austin who is awesome. If we ever can get her on here or us together of some of the work we do.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Because I think our field is like, we're still learning and growing so much with ADHD. And the more that I learn about sensory processing and the overlap of traits and all these other things, and then why some of my interventions work and why they would work for, certain sensory profiles and not other sensory profiles, I think is really important. And I think that's one of the reasons too I struggled so much in the beginning as a mom, not necessarily like with like postpartum anxiety or depression, but just kind of like how all the stuff was extra hard that I didn't feel like super prepared for. But I think it was because too of my sensory needs weren't being met because I had so many I had so many physical complications that like walking was really painful. Like it was really hard to pick up my baby. So I couldn't get my sensory needs met. And that totally impacts that hyperactivity, the executive functioning, all of these things. Like there's so much cool research out there and our fields need to be combined. So I think like in my world, like that's something that I've been very interested in. And when I teach at conferences or other things, that's kind of like my goal of integrating that because there's such a comprehensive model that is really important and that is way more integrated. And I do really like more integrated health care systems. When I interned at VA, I think that was one of the things they were good at, that we're all of us were talking together. We all had access to notes. We could all easily refer out, those types of things. So like I tend to work with in the medical model with a lot of people who are like psychiatrists or, that will be ADHD informed, and occupational therapists when I'm like, okay, your sensory profile is like out of the realm of what I can do from the trainings that I've received or just, the consultations. And it makes a huge difference because there's also like sensory-based anxiety. There's also all of this stuff. And like when you look at our classrooms of sitting still and not being in nature and we have less recess, right? Like I know for my brothers, at least, like they got taken out of recess for moving their bodies.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? Like, I don't know. So, I really think that sensory processing component is really important. And we have 3 hidden systems that are the ones that really coordinate with like ADHD. Like we know of our 5. Like, I mean, that's when I worked in schools with kids. We did like those calm down boxes with the sensory boxes and the regulation. So we have a lot of that awareness, or at least I think people in Austin do, because that's part of the SEL curriculum. And the stuff when I was a school social worker, I, got trainings in that and did that with kids and a whole bunch of different things. But the 3 hidden systems are so key. And so I don't know if you've ever heard the acronym like HALTs, So HALT, it's called like, are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? So like when you're having like some big feelings,
vulnerability factors.
Yeah. Like of kind of check in first. Cause a lot of times, like our bodies and brains are interesting, especially with ADHD, because we don't always get the cues in our body. So when we get them, it's like big, right? It's intense because like we're like, I'm not hungry.
But that bell's been going off for a while. You just weren't aware of it.
Right. And so, which is why I love, which is part of your interoception sensory processing system. Right. So that's why I love the interoception, like instead of mindfulness, of you're learning about your body. Because mindfulness is really hard for ADHD when you have an under-responsive like interoception system, because we don't get the signals. And then too, because I've seen Kung Fu Panda twice now.
Kung Fu Panda house. What?
For ADHD. But it's a scene where he's just like trying to meditate and he's like, peas, sweet peas, this. And my kid is just laughing at the meditation. And then, but that's like so ADHD, right? You know, they're like, oh, just, pay attention to your body. And it's like, oh, it's like, okay, I have to do this and this and this and all these other things. It's just like the spiraling of thoughts. But that's why I use HALTs, is like your sensory processing needs. So I try to bring that into awareness. I do a lot of sensory communication strategies, like, because some of the people I've really liked and listened to, like sometimes I hear them on their relationship podcast or something, and they're like, I just need to sit and listen. Or they're being told like to like just sit still and really pay attention on what their person's saying. And you do want to hear what the other person's saying. You do want to understand.
You can move while you do that.
Right. But there's other sensory ways that you can do that aren't going to be dysregulating for the other person. Yeah. And that's where it's kind of this fine dance that like, like
together,
that's helpful. Like I can give, in my trainings or book, like certain tools, but that's where it comes like when you have more of either the group experience or something of getting that direct feedback, it's so much easier than just trying everything, especially after you've tried everything that doesn't work. It's really challenging. And our whole medical system too for ADHD is like impossible. Like it's just so hard to find an appointment, book an appointment, follow up with insurance, all of those things. But I think that understanding our sensory needs, and I hope more clinicians, this is like my own little pet project, like really get into that. I didn't have time to like include or do more research on it when I was writing the book. So it's not really in there, but like all my other work and stuff is because like, and I think that's the thing too, like for me also as a parent, like I imagined, I was like, okay, I have so much energy, I'm just going to be normal. Right. And then it's like, I couldn't do anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I have no energy at all. Like the swing was really surprising because pregnancy is it disrupts a lot of your sensory processing systems. That's why you tend to get more motion sick or get more vertigo, or like it messes with your body in these ways. And then we also tend to have hypermobility and all of this stuff that I didn't know. And I feel like I deserve to know, or like the medical model should have told me or given me adequate support in these ways.
Yeah. And
I do have a great medical team that I really like love and trust and really appreciate. And I feel really lucky, but like I cultivated that. That wasn't like part of like the maternal health or any of the education or any of those things. And I think that's also too why like parenthood is such generally kind of that big thing for ADHD and ADHD relationships, because one, in the US, like we have a lot of consequences for not being on top of things. Like my family, my sister-in-law in Mexico, she can sign my niece up for a camp like the day before. She can change schools. And I'm like, you can do that? Really? Sometimes I go down there. I'm like, do we have to buy this? Do we have to buy these things in advance? And they're like, no, we can buy a day of. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's true. That's great. Like, and then I remember back to why I liked living in those countries, because everything is, it works when you're spontaneous and spur of the moment. And
I am more spontaneous.
Yeah. And like here in the US, with my stepfather, at least, it was just like, okay, like how you respect people is like you take care of yourself and you show up early and you do all these things. Like you don't burden others. And that's like a sign.
I'm taught a model that doesn't jive with the way that we are. And then there's this like, oh, if I don't do that intuitively or figure out how to do that in that way, I'm not right, or I'm,
you need the different supports on how to do that. Right. Like there's ways to bring more awareness to time and systems that work really well.
Yeah.
But like when you're just not like, well, just do it. I mean, you just do it, or just set an alarm or something, it's, I don't know.
That's not,
it's not going to work.
Right. You need to put some of those games around it. You need to put some of that praise around it. You need to put some of that
positive reward. I mean, we got like a letter from AISD last year. I mean, my husband was in charge of getting my kid to school on time, and he would be like 10 seconds and they marked us tardy. What? I'm like, see, see where I learned all these things? Because like, when we were together, I was like, wow, it's just like the time, he's so late all the time, which is like totally fine if I'm living in a different country and that's the norm. I'm like, all right, I'm in it. But I'm like, here, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I don't want to rush this. And then all my friends told me, they're like, Anita, but you're late. And I'm like, I am? I'm like, huh? Okay, I need to maybe change that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, not as late as this person, which is, we've worked that out in a way that works really well for us. But it is, I don't know, there are all these differences, but there's bigger consequences. What I'm saying is like here in the US, like you forget about camp, then you're really screwed. Or like the next month, we have a Wednesday off. That for the first time ever in AISD, April 10th, if you didn't know, like that for people who are not on top of those things, that can really be disruptive to your schedules and all these other blocks that get so put into place because we don't have a lot of social supports and systems that catch everything. So it's really two people that are juggling too much and it's too much pressure on this like individual family system to begin with. So that's where I see like a lot of ADHDers hit their breaking point is like midlife. So if you've been lucky enough to have figured out tools that work for you, find careers that are successful for you that tend to work well with your brain, where there's a lot of urgency crisis like ERs, cybersecurity, arts, following your interest. A lot of people also like, coding, software engineering, that type of thing. Like, so if you found environments that work for you, that's awesome. But then a lot of the times, if you weren't modeled that or you don't know what that is, you don't know how to bring it back home. And then it gets really, really confusing because then your other person is like, but you can do this at work. Why can't you do this here? Like, why can't you repair a fence here? But like when your friend needs it, you can go and do it because there's a big reward and praise and not criticism, which is what you tend to get. Because that's what we were given
at home.
Yeah. And so this cycle like that builds and builds and builds and builds. And I just went like, the typical ADHD all over the place. Cause I think I was talking about,
I love you. You're awesome.
sensory processing is working even in the home to make it sensory friendly, to be working with your brain, all of those things. And when you make those adaptions, it works. And I think one of the best things that I've ever, in retrospect, the best environment that I ever was in, the most ADHD affirming environment I was ever in, was when I was working at that nature immersion camp. That was just like so well funded, amazing staff. And when I wrote the book, I emailed like a lot of the people I used to work with, and half of them were like, "Oh, I have ADHD. Oh, this will be great," And I was like, "Oh, no wonder," because I would pair counselors with the person who could like remember the medical cards, would like get the sunblock, do all the other things. And they're really good at this stuff. And they would all, and I would, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, that's the other thing that other neurotypical people are like, I don't know, it's not that hard. I'm like, wow, you put away, where this is. This is great, and they're just like, oh, I'm not used to getting all this recognition for this. And I'm like, this is fantastic. And then they would really appreciate, I'd pair with the other person who was really good at like being spontaneous and, gathering the kids' attention or coming up with a solution or game in the moment. And it was such a beautiful balance. And that was really before like, I was in graduate school when I started as a director at this nature immersion camp. And then I just continued. I was like, oh, okay, I got a job at a school. I was like, perfect. I can still continue until I became pregnant. But it was such a great environment, and it really embraced growth mindset, and it really had all of these pillars, and it really worked with these like ebbs and flows of knowing how to kind of like get your sensory needs met and excitement up, but then also come back to the calm and have the reflection and all of these things. And when I look at it, when we're all problem solving, it's like, okay, we're having trouble with like the dish line. Okay, well, let's get signs up there. So, people have the visual steps and the visual reminders. We all have like body doubling.
Set expectations, manage expectations.
Like I'm not a big pranker. I don't like pranks, but there is kind of a culture of pranks. So I was like, I don't like this, right? And then get it. It's people's love languages, like in that sense of like, it's how they show care. Cause it's like, you take thought, there's a big reaction, all of these things. So we turned them into compassionate pranks. So we called them cranks. So people would like do the community responsibilities and surprise them. But like, instead of the kids going, oh, we have the responsibilities, we started to bring a lot of this stuff. And and I and retrospectively, like I have on YouTube, like just a live dialogue with one of the people I used to work with who did end up becoming like the director eventually and everything else. And we were talking about like how wonderful this place was that embraced all of these pillars, how healing and restorative it was for all of us, how it's still such a great community. Like when we still go back there, we're still very active in that community. And and just nature is such a great teacher. It's such a great regulator. It is so good for ADHD, right? Like when you're talking about
nature's
rock
church.
climbing, it is like so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so anyways, I think that environment is so helpful as kind of this model, that like I want people to be able to, or give enough tools and information for people to be able to like cultivate that and whatever works for them, because we all have limitations of what we're responsible for, what the challenges are in our lives, like the resources we have, like they're all different, and so it doesn't look the same for everyone. But I really do think that, and research goes to show it, especially that big Harvard study, but like those our primary relationships are what matters, like even when we're going through traumatic experiences, it is not getting stuck in it by having somebody witness and be there with you in all of it, know, and all of those things and those supports. So I think in those ways of like creating those communities, finding those communities, working on those relationships, people to in my book of just like, that and I love working with parents, because I'm like, you do this with your kid, I know you can do this with your partner. Like, like you can't fool me, And so it's a lot of the things that we will do for others that we have to apply to ourselves and our other, primary partner, because for some reason, what's modeled in the US is like we treat oftentimes the people closest to us with like lack of respect or frustration, or like we don't have to do our own emotional regulation. We just kind of like take our and throw it on them. Ugh. And so that doesn't really feel good to anybody. And so when we are able to slowly change that, and I think it's wonderful that so many parents are doing that with our kids, and then we can apply that. But then they're like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. They're an adult. Why would I have to do that? Why do I have to give them a round of applause, blah, blah, blah. It's about time. And it's like, oof.